All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in. That's right. It is our prospect planner piece brought to you by RDA Financial. All the great times and hey, we've had so far with this. It's been fun, and it really truly has been very educational, inspirational, and all of that. This is the pursuit of the college game beyond the baseball field. Different things behind the scenes, what goes into it, what goes into the recruiting process, and a whole lot more. There's a lot that goes in, there's a lot that takes place, and we have a good time doing it. And speaking of good time, might as well call him Mr. Good Time. We bring in Chad Erickson here, who's the other half of this segment here. And Chad, thanks again. I think that's the best intro I've given you so far, and I think we're going to stick with it.
Yeah, Mr. Good Time. I'll have to remember that one.
There you go. Hey, it works. Hey, it can be great. Mr. Good Time happens. Uh, you know, everybody needs a Mr. Good Time in their life, especially if you're a Cubs fan at this point.
Yeah, well, they made a nice little run right before the All Star break, so we'll take it. It's putting a question mark in that GM's head as to what he should actually do.
Yeah, you know what? It's always fun to kind of see what will happen and kind of what spurs on what, and maybe nothing happens. Who knows? We'll have to see how that ends up for sure. But as we continue along here, Chad, I do want to say thanks again. We get rocking and rolling here. Again, this is brought to you by RDA Financial, and a lot of times when we have this, it's just a good chance to sit back and take a look at baseball from a different side of things. I mean, right now we're sitting here, postseason. It's the middle of postseason. It is the grind. It is everything, but there is still a lot to think about beyond what's going on right now in the postseason, right? There's still the future to look forward to. And one of the things that Chad and myself really wanted to go forward and do here was to take a look at some, again, not just our voices, but some other big voices that have been there, done that. We got Jeff LaFavor coming on here to talk about from the club perspective side of things, from just being a parent throughout all this. Really, we want to get that holistic experience as possible here. And Jeff's coming on, and you know very well what one of his kids are doing right now with Bishop Heelan, part of a fantastic program going on there. They are riding high, and again, from LaFavor, Bleeker, and everybody beyond, that is a great team. And so we're going to get the chance to talk with Jeff about his standpoint through his viewpoints, and really kind of pick his brain a bit. So this is, Chad, this is kind of what we want, right? The people who are influential in the industry, influential in just baseball in terms of mindset, you got to love it. And I think Jeff's going to do just that.
Yeah, I'm happy to have Jeff on today. He was gracious enough to come on. He's had a lot going on here with all of his boys. He's chasing three boys around the baseball fields here this summer, which is not easy. I've only got two that I'm chasing around, and he's got three at very different levels. So burning the candle at both ends. And on top of that, he's running 7-1-2 baseball here on the western side of Iowa and doing a great job with that. So I'm excited to have him on today and talk about not only recruitment for his oldest son, Caleb, but his travel baseball or his club baseball experience, and
Yep.
and tap into that knowledge and maybe give some insights to some parents here as we go forward. Jeff's a wealth of knowledge. He knows the baseball game inside and out, and the recruitment aspect of it is really an integral part of club baseball. Jeff's going to talk about that too. So happy to have him on here. I'm glad he's taken some time for us today. Very thankful for that.
Yeah, whatever you paid him here, Chad, it's working great. I love it. Stick with it. You don't need to tell me the amount here, but certainly I love that we get some of the A-list ones on here. But speaking of the man himself here, we're going to get Jeff LaFavor on here. We mentioned, again, he has a great pedigree helping to run 7-1-2 baseball and beyond, and he joins us right now on the hotline here as we bring him in. And Jeff, hey, I want to say thanks for joining us here. Hopefully we're catching you at a good time in the midst of postseason baseball, keeping your head about you. A lot of stuff going on, but thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for giving me some time today. I really enjoy your content you guys put out and looking forward to it. It's been a busy, as Chad said, it's been a busy grind. Three boys. I got a second grader, be second grader, seventh grader, and soon to be junior. So love every minute of it. But it's sometimes a whirlwind, and yeah, definitely have a passion for baseball and love the game.
Well, no doubt. I mean, do we call you Superman at this point? I mean, because three different places all at once. I just had my third, and I've already thinking, man, toddlers, man, this is a crazy world we live in. I can only imagine once it gets time to trying to diversify your time and multiply yourself when you can't. I can only imagine that's a crazy world too.
Yeah, for sure. I have a phenomenal wife who helps out a lot. Not just plug in there because if she listens to this, but she really does help out a lot. She's a great baseball mom. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Hey, behind Chad and I have said this before too. Behind some great baseball minds, great baseball people, you got to have a lot of people. You got to have a lot of those who can support us in great ways. So, again, happy that you're here. I want to say again, thanks that you're here. And first off, I want to say you also again work with 712 Baseball. We'll get that here in a bit, but that's kind of where we wanted we wanted that context because of what you bring to the table here. And I want to start off with here, and then I'll go to Chad here in a bit, but I wanted to start off by asking, in the world we live in here, Jeff. Right now, there's so many ways to get noticed, so many ways to get involved. It seems like there's a cornucopia of ways to get your name out there, get to events, things like that. Uh, how does one first off simplify, or what's the big goal in order to truly be effective in recruiting? I mean, ultimately, there's so many things. And I see kids putting up their own highlight reels, putting too much time on the walk arounds, things like that. Parents not knowing where truly the best place is to go. What's kind of your thought process generally when it comes to how to make this an effective process?
Yeah, I think it starts at first of all development, at the youth level. I mean, obviously you got to have the tools and the talent and the drive and the passion, right? Because college baseball is at every level, JUCO, NAI, D3, D2, D1, whatever you name it. There are some very talented college baseball players. So to know that, you have to put in the work and have that passion to play because it's a grind, right? Chad knows that. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes in it. So I think the first things first is you got to have the tools, and then with that, something to showcase, And I think it starts, with my experience, it bubbles up, and when you start getting into eighth and ninth grade, when you start getting into high school baseball, you kind of see that you have some tools to showcase. I think PBR has been a great tool too. You go out there and obviously they do a good job of scouting that. I think you can kind of see where you fit in amongst your peers. But I think that's the part of it is really just getting better. And then I think it starts with relationships. We talk about that in life, in sales and marketing and everything. And Chad knows that in his field of work. But I think it's important, to always, you never know, you're playing against somebody, you're playing for somebody, you have a club coach just maybe filling in for a team. Your impression with that coach, if they're asked ever from another coach's point of view, like, what's this kid like? I think it's establishing those relationships and know that everybody's watching at some point in a tournament, a game. They might be watching a basketball game or something.
Mm-hmm.
To know, like, what's your body language like? Who are you as a person? What does this bring together? Not just the baseball skills, but it's those intangibles as a team player and things like
Yeah.
that. And then I think it starts, like, I think really then getting good video,
Okay.
and really trying to get content of what you showcase. If you're a pitcher, video at games. I think I've learned a lot about that. And then connecting with coaches, just reaching out. I think it's in life too, and in business. When you get older, you gotta, if you're in sales, you gotta make cold calls and things like that. That's this, right? You gotta
Yep.
reach out to programs and find and look at, hey, where do I want to go to school, and what's a good fit, like academically, athletically, financially, and all that, location. and then cast that net, see, hey, I love your biology science program and I want to play baseball at your school. Here's a video clip, and I think just things like that to really provide outreach. And then it's the camp setting and trying to get to those camps on those schools that you want to go to. But again, you're going to know your level of ability and talent, and based on things like PBR and feedback from coaches and a team around you. So I think that's important, those things.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Chad?
Yeah, so all of those things are great aspects, and those are some big brushstrokes. What do you feel puts you on? Okay, so let's talk about the draft. Right, we had two guys get drafted from Iowa just yesterday. So Joey Oki, right, gets drafted. What do you think, outside of obviously great metrics, gets you on that national stage?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think part of it, there are good regional events that start, right? We've talked about some PBR events, some buzz that happens. IA baseball, you guys do a good job, like just understanding, hey, he's got talent, obviously, in that. What gets you on that national stage, in my opinion, I think is, some of these kids are going all across the country and playing in top tournaments, right? So there's the high school baseball in the summer, and I think it's a great experience for Iowa high school students. But a lot of times these players also, like the Joey Okies of the world. I mean, Joey's playing. He played for Team USA, I believe, and there's some other guys that gets you a lot of that exposure. But it's going to some of these. There's a lot of top events through Perfect Game, PBR and other organizations. But going to those is really in playing against some really tough competition on the national stage. I think helps. Like, hey, Joey Oki he throws hard. We all know that, but he's got a tremendous slider and he gets outs and he's a competitor, and people see that out there. And then more people, like college coaches, these, big club organizations see that, obviously, other organizations. And I think that develops a buzz. And I think on the professional side, it's things like area code games, getting invited to that. If you're really good, like you go down to that, then you play in front of a lot of the best players in the country. And I think that's a valuable experience for some kids too.
Yeah, and certainly the experience factor is huge. Again, what we talk about is experience across really all platforms and venues. I know that you recently had the chance with, I believe, your oldest to go down for a Perfect Game event there, and I did want to kind of ask that part about it from there. Again, from a club coach perspective, from someone who knows that side of this side of the world as well. I think that I have been asked. I have had several to kind of go, man, I just don't know how thin I can stretch myself. Go into this event, go into that event. Which one kind of is best? I know you talked about with the development side of things here as well, but how much caution should you use with all this? Because I know that you had more of a proactive approach. So let's be proactive about it. Let's go out. Let's get it. But is there a point at which you can go too much? And kind of where do you find that balance as I guess a parent and a coach?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you have to have balance. And I think it's and I think health is the number one thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm dealing with my son. He's obviously, he's 6'5", but he's very skinny. He's put on weight, and just making sure that he's healthy and that. So that's something that we value, is just looking at the load around. And I think every parent should look at that as just, there are opportunities out there, but there's sometimes you got to say, hey, they need a break or they need this. Cause I think the number one thing is keeping them healthy, and keeping kids, having fun. Like the high school experience, we've really enjoyed that. I mean, our families are great at Heelan. It's just been a great season. But I think it's also, evaluating opportunities as they come up. Like, I mean, there's times where, at all levels, kids are asked, "Hey, can you come play for us on this team going to so and so or whatever."
Hmm.
Sometimes, it might make sense depending on where you're at. Especially in the high school season. I think you're committed to your team, and that's first. But I think you got to have those opportunities are also there. You got to evaluate and say, "Hey, maybe that's an opportunity that I can't pass up." But I think it's just looking at health being the primary driver, but also what opportunities are out there. Like, and there's some very good tournaments down south that a lot of kids that aren't from Iowa go down and play.
Hmm.
Um, so I think those are recruiting events that are really good for some of the top players that play. But you got to evaluate that, and I think evaluate that with also the camp experience. I think those are very valuable. Is going to a college camp and showcasing your skills and being able to meet the coaching staff, learn about that. And again, not everybody's at that level, and you'll learn when you go to that camp. Hey, I need to work, right? I'm not there yet, and that's not a bad thing, right? So you got to have high aspirations, but I think you got to be realistic in that where you're at in your game. And like if you're a pitcher, hey, what is my repertoire? What is my velocity? Where am I at amongst my peers? And what is my projection too? We talk about that. Like, where can I go? And I think that's talk with coaches, and the rules are August 1 of your junior year. So that's the hard part, is you can't talk to them until then. So
Hmm. Yeah, the recruiting rules, especially D1, have made it kind of interesting here. But hey, we're nothing if not adaptable here. And one of the things, Chad, before I get to you here, is also with all that being said here, Jeff, I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed is getting to talk through this segment about just realizing that, recognizing things that you don't know right off the bat. You brought up something that Chad mentioned as well. Go to camps, check those out, and I think from I wanted to get your take on this, especially from again running 712 baseball. I wanted to get your take. When you go out and do this, you also have the mindset of helping these kids, helping these athletes reach that next level, right? Be competitive in the sense they are right now. But I also wanted to kind of get that mindset too of, it's, I assume, I'm going to say I assume it's this way because I want to get your take, but I assume it's good to be in the moment, right? Be where you are right now, but also kind of have that viewpoint in the future. Kind of like, how does this connect to the future? And I think when I say that, some people think, man, he has 1 foot out the door. But I want to get your take on it. I think it's healthy to have that think about what you're doing right now, but how does this connect to the future?
yeah, I think it's give you an example. I think it's as you're an eighth grader, ninth grader, 10th grader, coming up,
Yep.
right? I think it's a lot of kids need to get bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, the colleges, every kid, with the transfer portal, everything, everybody, the size is crazy right now, right? And the strength. So I think that's something you got to think about. Like, kids are going to grow, but it's an onus on the kids. They got to put in the work,
Mm-hmm.
with good strength conditioning and all that. It's hard to be a college baseball player in general. So I think, yeah, you got to be mindful of the now and know that, your body's going to change, right? I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to change as a player. My example, I was going to say, I mean, we've seen a lot of kids like have been eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, and they're, Jaron Bleeker's one of them, right? I mean, Jaron put in a ton of work. He was a freshman. I mean, he wasn't very big freshman, right? I mean, he was tall, lanky. He's kind of like Caleb a little bit, but sophomore, he put on weight. He got stronger. He worked, and he put himself in where he needed to be. And last night it was a testament to him. He came out and he was electric.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big thing is just play the now, compete. But no, you got to put in the work and get better, and that your body's going to change. But it's on you. It's that onus is on you, and I think that's important. And all my club kids, we try to tell them, like, strive for the best, right? Where do you want to go? Like, it's up to you. But I think know that, and I tell that when I give lessons, I have 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and they come in and their parents are both really tall. I know they're going to grow. So it's just trust the process, stay to it, work hard, and, strive for the best, set goals. And I think you make a good point. It's not now you got to compete, be a competitor, be a good teammate, and then continue to work, because you're going to really, you have a bright future if you put in the work and trust the process.
Yeah. Chad?
Yeah, I think part of the club scene is having um, that camaraderie where you're pushing each other as players, and we see that at these really good high school programs as well. The players push each other in a good way, in a constructive way, right? And I think, Jeff, one thing that I wanted to talk with you about, I know prior to developing 712 baseball, um, you participated in several different clubs around the upper Midwest. What were the qualities of those clubs that you wanted to bring to 712 baseball, and how are you instituting those good things that foster the environment for great baseball development, right? Because a lot of what the clubs do is it's player development. It's that comes first, and then it's the recruiting comes second, right? Because you can't have recruiting without the development. So what did you take from those other programs and bring to 712 that you felt like, okay, this is an important piece, we need this? Just give us some examples if you could.
You bet. That's a great question. I think it's a good friend of mine. I've been lucky to have some good minds in the baseball world. I played with JJ Lally. He's a scout for the White Sox now, just a terrific mind. So he's got a good, but it's funny how the baseball world's connected. So he's good friends with Adam Barta, who's one of my best friends, who runs the Minnesota Blizzard club program my son played for when he was young. And being in Minneapolis, tough to travel up there. But I learned a lot from him, and just, the whole thing. At the end of the day, like, these kids, a small percentage of them are going to play high level college baseball, right? But I think it's those life skills. So I think the life skills of being a team player, I think that goes a long way, right? Mm-hmm. Just being a really good teammate. So I've learned that's something we try to, hone in on. And I think it's handling failure, being a baseball is a huge game of failure. And I think every single day in my club teams, and what I saw with Adam at the Blizzard, like, they really focused on, hey, fail fast and move on, and trust that this is baseball, and you go 1 for 3. It's a great day. You could hit 2 line drives, the other 2 at bats, and have a really good day. But I think it's learning to handle that failure. And I think it's also, I think knowing that the work ethic, I think they do a good job, and some other programs do a good job. The work ethic of just having players around you that are good kids, that value experience of hard work, and together they have a value there of that kind of synergism. Everybody's important to that program, and that team approach. I think those are important qualities that I want to instill in our program. And I think it's the beauty of it is, not all our kids are going to go on and play college baseball, but they're going to also be in the real world someday, and hopefully they can take a few qualities away from baseball that are going to be valuable to them in their life.
Yeah. By the way, I will say, Scrabble word points for synergism. I think you win that one, Jeff, pretty well there. So hey, next time we go into some Scrabble teams, you're my teammate. That's for sure.
I got you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff LaFavor joining us here. Again, he helps run 712 Baseball, and what a great program that has been. We're talking about the pursuit again, overall of of college, right? Recruiting, the experience, all that goes on. And Jeff, I did also want to touch up. I love how you mentioned again, continue to go back to development and how that works and kind of where you're at. Chad and I have talked a lot about kind of where are you right now, and I think there for everybody it's different. Whether it's in their physical, mental, mental state right now, like where are you at right now? How does that work towards your future goals? But when you sit here and you get ready, I mean, a lot of guys on your programs, like you said, they're rocking, they're ready, they know baseball in and out, they're ready to go here. But I feel as though sometimes we all want to be, and Chad had a great mentioned this a while back here. Is that everyone wants to hit the big fly ball? Everyone wants the sexy bomb that gets over there. Everyone wants to be the walk off hero, but not a lot else is paid attention to at times. I think everyone wants to be D1. Everyone wants to be that. But how would I guess the question I'm trying to get at is how important is it to kind of step back and look at where you are and what's the big I guess develop. We'll start with physical. What's the biggest physical piece to the puzzle? Whether it be the training, whether it be in season or in the high school season. There's so much to go on. What's the big physical piece that I guess is individual to everybody, but that we should all be kind of look out for, because in the end, you gotta know where you are. You got to be able to perform at your level the best. And what's the biggest thing you tell, not just obviously the athletes themselves, but parents in terms of what's the best physical advice in order to, as you get ready, you develop and get ready for the college game.
Yeah, I played college baseball at Briarcliff here in Sioux City, and I can tell a lot of people say, hey, everybody wants to go Division I, right? Everybody wants to go the top level. It's hard, like just knowing it, like especially now, it's really hard to go that. And I'm not telling kids that have high aspirations. I think it's great, but there's a lot of kids also that start at D3 and they love their experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was an NAI baseball player, and I won't change my experience for anything. Met my wife, it was a great experience, right? So I think the physical traits, though, that know that, if you're looking now as a high school student and you're looking at recruitment,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of you're competing against sophomores, juniors, and seniors that are men.
Yeah.
So I think from the physical aspect, it's really strength, but proper, right? I mean, it's getting in the weight room and finding good strength coaches and really using your that is key, is getting strength. Nutrition is big. Um, Speed and agility. People are quicker right now, right? And it depends on your position too. I think the thing that I look at from a PBR is you can see where everybody at and their 60 times and all that, just to kind of see where you're at. Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I what's my 60 time, or how hard do I throw? What's my exit velocity? Those are part metrics, right? That colleges look at a piece of that, but I think it's also like, what do you look on the physical tools? And to answer your question, I think it's colleges I think, again, this is their word, but what I see is they look at, like, do you look the part physically, like, or can you get there for me? Are you projectable in your body? Can it fill out?
Yep.
And where are you at right now from your metrics, and can you get there? But then all the other intangibles, like, are you a good kid? Are you a good teammate? And do you, what's your body language if you give up a bomb? Like, things like that. I mean, it's important, but the physical attribute is important. And I think we get hung up a lot on the level of play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the transfer portal is, there's a lot of kids that, have, you'll see it at College World Series. Kids are coming from sometimes D2s, and they're all of a sudden playing in the College World Series, So I don't think it's end all be all, but I always tell our kids, find a place where you're going to fit in terms of college,
Yep.
where you're going to fit academically, athletic, socially, and you're going to enjoy it, have a passion, and then you can work on your game. And lastly, it's development. Like, am I going to get better when I go to college? If it's a JUCO or a D3 NAI Like, are the coaches going to help me get better? Are the tools there and the platform for me to get better?
Yeah. And again, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff LaFavor joining us here. Chad, one more question here, quick, but I did want to also mention, I like how Chad had brought up, what you do at 712 Baseball. I wanted to kind of get the thoughts on everything. For me is kind of like a puzzle piece, right? Especially for Iowa high school baseball. I mean, you have your season in the summer, which again we're a fan of here. Of course, then it's then outside of that, what you have going on from from your workout routines to club ball and everything. How would you describe, if we're looking at this in terms of one big puzzle piece here, Jeff? How would you describe where club ball, especially that which entails 712, how does that fit into the overall look from a player, right? If someone's looking out there, what should I do? Club ball? Do I just do a Legion ball? Do I go this route? I mean, what's the big puzzle piece, or how do we attach 712 baseball, club baseball? How does that fit into the overall goal of making it to the college level?
Yeah, I think it's a terrific question. I would say one thing it depends on your goals,
Uh-huh.
right? I think it's do I if I want to play college baseball, um, I think multi-sport athletes are incredible. Like I love, like, I played football in high
Mm-hmm.
school. I know a lot of people play multiple sports, but there's a big debate out there, right? Like, do
Yeah.
I if I'm a baseball player, like, am I going to lose if I play like it depends. It depends what your goals are, right? If you want to play high level baseball and get better, like, I think it's important to play. I always think it's important to play multiple sports. It helps the
Yep.
community out, things like that. But I think if you're going to be a baseball player, like, and you're playing basketball, for example, my son played basketball his freshman year, but he still hit, right? He still got in the weight room and did some things. He still did his arm work. So it is really tough for athletes. But I think that the puzzle, looking around it is, play all those sports. But if you're a baseball player, you also have to be on the training and kind of work and get your arm ready for the season.
Yep.
Hitter, you got to hit, right? You got to get in the weight room, things like that. But also those other sports do help that aspect. So I don't want to lose credit there. I think being a lot of our kids play a lot of football, a lot of basketball, and things like that. So it's key. But I think the piece of the puzzle is really the training element. If you want
Yeah.
to play at the next level, I think you really have to train. I think the fall baseball has picked up steam.
Yep.
We have five fall teams that I think are it's a great experience where we couple a lot of the training and a lot of the development piece during the week around football. Some kids play football and they're there as well.
Yep.
So I think the fall piece, but it's also the competitive piece. Let's go get more at bats. Let's go get more innings on the mound, just competitive. And got to watch your arm, obviously, because you come off a high school season, but it's there. And then it's tough for kids too, going to camps, playing fall ball. It's managing that. But I think then taking a break is important. You're tired, you're sore, whatever it might be. Taking a break is not a bad thing. And then winter hits, like, we have pitching things, we have catching opportunities, and
Yep.
just working with a good group, a nucleus of kids, and pushing each other is big, I think. And then getting ready for the season, getting ramped up January, February, March, so you're ready to go and do that. And I think it's a tough balancing act, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, Doing that. And if you want to play baseball, like, I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying those are some tools, and getting extra at bats helps, right? Honing in on your craft and working on your changeup, working on your slider during the fall season, getting ready. I think that's big, and throwing some bullpens. But it's hard to also fit in those camps and those things like that. And you got to watch your body and what's your body telling you. And I think Chad's been through that a little bit too, just making sure that they're healthy and that they can do well at these camps too.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Chad. Yeah, Chad's been every which way possible. Again, both of you have, and again, really appreciate the experience here. And yeah, like I said, Chad, you've been there, done that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Health comes first, And so sometimes you have to make compromises, like Jeff said. You can't always do everything. And I know one of the things that we talked about really early on in this series is don't say no, right?
Right.
Don't write things off. But what you try and do is you try and figure out, okay, what's the best way that I can balance this? How can I make the most of the opportunity that's in front of me? Maybe I can't pitch, but I can go and I can do some positional work at that camp instead,
Yep.
and show what I can do with another aspect of my baseball game. But my arm pitching off of a mound is shut down, and so those things, because of the season, it does make it a little difficult from some player from Iowa to get recruited, just because of the timing of everything. We're not on the same schedule. And so you do have to make some compromises. But, health comes first, because if you do something that causes, damage that ends up with you on a hospital bed, uh, definitely not worth it, right? Take care of yourself. Make sure you're physically able to perform. And if you're not, then figure out what you are available to do, what you can do, or you just got to shut down and say, you know what, I'm going to keep my ear to the ground, and I'm going to be looking out for opportunities further on down the road.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the planning comes in, right? So if it gets difficult in a hurry when you have maybe someone who hasn't really developed, and then 6 months down the road, okay, now they're ready, but the timing physically ready to perform is not there. That
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah.
There's two aspects of it, right? There's the development aspect of, okay, now I'm ready to show off what I can do. And then, okay, I'm ready to show off what I can do, but I also need to be physically ready to perform. Those are two different things, right? And that's the balancing act. That's the tough part, is trying to make sure that you're ready on both of those aspects at the same time.
Well, man, that can. I think everyone should really take kudos from and take a lot from what this conversation brings, not just from that standpoint with juggling all of the different things in the air that go through. And again, you two do a great job of that. I think that stress, thankfully for me, it won't happen for another handful of years. I don't think my 6-year-old's going to go pro anytime soon, guys. So I think I'm okay. I think I can wait for a little while. But again, we have Jeff LaFavor here as we start to wrap things up. But Jeff, I did also want to ask here as well, timeline wise. I love how you picked up. I touched on those just a little bit here, but as we get here right now, obviously we're in season, but gosh, there are a lot of things that I see from what you guys got going on there. It seems you're actively busy in every facet of the year, right? Something's always going down. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you get the chance, 712 Baseball, they're active, they're there, they're present, and it really showcases that they really are trying to do everything they can to progress the athletes beyond what they're capable of or think they're capable of doing. But I want to get chronologically the time frame here as from the club scene here, and just again as a dad as well of a player going through this and trying to go through this whole process. What's the timeline like for the club scene right now? What goes on with you and your operations right now? What's the big things moving forward that not just 712 baseball is looking forward to, but other just the club scene in general? What's the timeline as we sit right now? That if someone coming in here is thinking like, man, into my 8th grade year, where do I go? What do I pursue if I was under a rock and didn't do this before? What's the timeline like for you guys right now as it sits, not just now, but going into kind of once the summer season ends?
Yeah, and I'll kind of touch on that too. And I just want to reiterate as well, like I think if you're an athlete, we have a lot of them that play we have a lot of starting quarterbacks, basketball, football. I think you got to like if you're if you're a starting quarterback, like go play football, right? Like I have
Mm-hmm.
no like issue. I think it's more or less like if you want to play baseball in college, you also got to find time to get those swings in, right? At some
Yep.
point, right? But that's the hard juggling act. So I think chronologically, you got again, Chad said it well. I think knowing your body,
Okay.
what was your high school season like, right? If I'm an eighth, ninth grader, I might not have thrown as many innings, and I can jump on a fall team. So our fall teams will start. We'll take some breaks during dead week. We will start kind of having practices in August with our teams once a week, and then we'll have an optional day. So it's just getting the boys together for a couple times and throwing bullpens and doing defensive, a lot of fundamentals, a lot of reps.
Mm-hmm.
That happens, and then we'll start tournaments mid to late August, and they'll go through usually the start of October. We might take a team after that to a national event, but that's kind of the fall season, 4 to 5 tournaments. At the younger ages, we don't do as many, just because I think they're just getting up to speed, right? I think
Yep.
the high school scene's a little bit more, and then I encourage just take a break, right? You've had a high school season and you've had a fall season. Now it's just get your body right. Obviously keep that strength component. Take a little time off, depending on what your load was for pitching and so forth. Some of our pitchers in the fall may not pitch as much because they've had a strong load in high school. So it's picking spots there, seeing how their arm health is. I think that's number one with our pitchers. Are you healthy? We want to keep you healthy. We've heard a lot about the major league level on down. Health, arm health is big. We got to make sure that we're taking care of our arms. And then, we'll start, like, we have pitching programs, getting arms ready in January. We have other things, skill development stuff going on in the winter, getting them ready. Then they'll start their high school stuff, some captain stuff going on, getting going. And I manage whole youth program too. So we get started with youth starting in January, and that's usually my summer too. So we do a lot of development, a lot of fundamental stuff there, and then let's apply that with some tournament stuff. But for the high school kids, it's really our big season is the fall because we don't want to intrude on the high school season, and I think that's a valuable experience for our Iowa kids.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Value to a T. Last couple questions, Chad. We'll start with you here as we start to wrap up our time. And again, with Jeff LaFavor here joining us graciously to talk all about from his mind, again, what the path is like, all the challenges, hoops, and different things that they'll go about it. And of course, what he does a little bit at 712 Baseball. So, Chad, let's go ahead. Well, as we start to wrap up, go ahead here.
Yeah, Jeff. So thanks again for coming on. This has been great. I'm gonna give you a question. This one's open ended but fairly straightforward. So as you've gone through the first 2 years with your oldest, what do you feel is the most valuable thing you've done in regard to his recruitment process?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple answers. I don't want to play the most valuable, I think, honestly, is just I think it's just the winter stuff, honestly. Like recruitment aside, I think it's just getting better in the winter, like just working on stuff, right? And getting stronger, bigger. I think that's the big thing. So that's the development piece more. As far as the recruiting piece, I would say the biggest thing, I think, is being proactive and just being active on social media and getting good video. Those things all in a nutshell. I mean, I said like 3 answers there, but I think it's really, Twitter's a big tool, and connecting with college coaches, but putting video out there and IA Baseball does a great job. PBR does a good job. Like just connecting the dots there and being active on social media is big, but I think it's also, sending out communication to coaches and, building those relationships. This is a relationship game, and they're looking at you from, hey, they're trying to start a relationship too. And at the end of the day, like it's all about like, is this a fit or not? Can you play here or not? And then, those are things that's starting a relationship. So I've worked around that question. I think the biggest thing is just build relationships with your current coaches
Yep.
and your college coaches. I think that's important.
And then lastly, here a fun two-party here for you. One, Jeff, what is something that on the opposite of that? What is something that athletes and even their parents should avoid? What should they avoid when it comes to this whole process, whether it be overhyped some things or not? So we'll start with that one. What's are some of the things that you have found? And again, we've talked about this with Chad as well, but I wanted to get your take. Just what are some of the things to avoid when you go through this whole process?
Well, you can spend a ton of money. I'll just say that there's a lot of things you can have dollars like the national level, right? Playing at the national level, like, and going to tournaments.
Yep.
Like, I get it. If you're Joe Yoki, yeah, it makes sense, right? I mean, you're going like if you're a really top kid and you have that skill and you can showcase something, and even if maybe you want to go play down south or something, I think those make sense. But know kind of where you're going to in your whole recruitment. Like, if you don't even want to go down there, like it might be a good vacation, things like that, but make sure that you're using your resources wisely. I think
Yep.
that's some people spend a lot of money on things that they maybe doesn't make a huge difference. I would focus on the development piece more, getting better, getting stronger. And then, if you do want to get out there and there's opportunities for down south and larger tournaments, yeah, take advantage of that. But getting better first. So that's the one pitfall. I would also say, the other one is just the element of just don't chase. I think get in this society, we chase velo a lot, and it's common, and everybody's it's all out there. Like so and so throws 91, 92. I think so and so is 6'5", 220. They're bigger, stronger, So I mean, that's when we're going to get hurt, right? So I think it's important to develop wisely and do that, and it's hard, right? So I think that's a pitfall too.
Yeah, and then to kick us off out the door here, one of the hardest hitting questions that we'll give here. I'll give it to both of you here, Chad and Jeff. But Jeff, we'll start with you first off. Hard hitting question here. You get the chance, you're out there. Are you a gum guy or a seeds guy, or neither?
I'm a seeds guy. I absolutely love seeds. Can't do them on turf much.
Yeah.
I like the dill pickle seeds are my favorite. So I'm a seeds guy for sure.
I'm with you with that. I don't know if I can change much beyond dill, but I love that. Chad, I got to ask, are you going to continue on the seeds train, or are you going to bump us for some gum here?
Yeah, I'm a ranch seeds guy, so
Right.
uh, it's seeds all the way. But like Jeff said, it's almost like how people nowadays they can't smoke when they go out. you know, Thankfully I never had that vice, but I feel it when I want to have some seeds and we're on a turf field. It makes it really difficult.
Hey, I can only imagine it's really tough. Yeah, certainly. And then last thing besides that, I saw once a friend of mine just came back from Seattle, and he showed me the picture of what I assumed it didn't look great, but what I assumed was deep fried cricket. I think. Now, if you get the chance to get out there here, Jeff, I'll start with you first. If you get the chance to get out to a game, say you get to Seattle, you find yourself there and are presented with a cricket on a stick, do you go as far as to try that? Do you say no to it? Where do you land on an atypical ballpark food like crickets?
I'm like It's funny because it sounds terrible, but I always say I'll try something. Like I want to be that guy. Like I didn't
Yeah.
like sushi at once. I tried it. I was like, this is really good. So I may give her a whirl and just see it. And then if I don't like it, oh well. So yeah, I'll give a deep fried cricket a whirl.
Definitely. Chad, and I'll ask you this too. I don't know if I've asked you this. Probably I have here, but again, you get the chance to that, or even like the cola inspired ketchup that they had. I don't know. That might be too much because if you put it on a hot dog and it's terrible, you've lost the hot dog, which at an MLB game probably cost you your car. So I just got to ask, where do you stand here? Are you an experimental guy, Chad, when it comes to your food at the ballpark?
Well, you're talking to a guy who spent a year in Japan. I've eaten quite a few interesting foods in my
All right.
lifetime, and so I'm not afraid. There's really not much that I'm afraid of. Uh, Probably
Okay.
my most adventuresome food was raw horse, which was
Oh,
excellent, by the way.
wow. Okay. All right. Very interesting. That's interesting. I've never had horse. I've heard it's a delicacy somewhere. Very interesting. I don't know if we're going to see it at a ballpark anytime soon, but if we do,
Probably not.
you're the guy that I'm going to come to I end up seeing it. Who knows? But Uh, with all this, again, Jeff, want to thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. I know we took a while, but this is important because, man, it's always fun for us to look at the high school game right now in season. But man, these kids go on; they do lots of great things. In fact, we've had a lot of guys beyond just the University of Iowa get drafted. From Jackson Wentworth. We had a Harlan guy get drafted as well from Nebraska. Obviously, it was a college ball, but a lot of guys get that chance there, and I think it starts right at the root level with what you are doing, Jeff, with all the stuff that just parents are doing in general. So it's really important, and I'm really glad that we got to have your voice here today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time, and I know there's a lot that goes into it too. There's a lot of good club organization. Iowa Sticks do a great job
Mm-hmm.
as well. I've collaborated a lot with them on that, and I think it's just how can we help kids get better at the game and give them opportunity. And I think that's what you guys are doing a great thing that promoting it. So I appreciate it.
Well, hey, it's always fun here, Jeff. Love to do it. And of course, thanks again. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hit us up and comments right on here. Of course, all across YouTube, you'll be able to catch us up, plus Rockvin as well. And of course, if you get the chance, you're on the area, you'd be remiss if you don't go and check out 712 Baseball and what Jeff has going. Jeff, appreciate it. And we'll catch you, well, again, all around because you are one of the busiest guys out there. So we'll probably catch you flying somewhere here and there. But thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to
Take
wrap
care.
up as we rock on. Again, Chad Erickson and myself, and of course, Jeff. Thanks again for tuning in. And until we see each other next time, stay safe on the base pass. Thanks again, guys. All right. And that will wrap